Today on CityCast Nashville, we're digging into the East Bank development and the recent zoning decisions that could reshape this part of town. But it's all a little confusing, so we put Metro Council member Emily Benedict to the test, asking her to make sense of what's really being built, who's calling the shots, who's paying for it, and will this actually become a real Nashville neighborhood or just more downtown? It's Monday, May 4th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Emily, you have 1 minute on the clock. Please explain to the folks at home all the different developments that are now planned for the eastern bank of the Cumberland River and what they are all named. Go!
All right. So the most hot topic is we just passed the rezoning for the 47 acres that's now called Wasiotto Bend. That's at the southern end of the East Bank, and that's where the scrapyard currently is. So that's going to be a whole new neighborhood. That's called Wasiotto Bend. Crossing over KVB, you're going to have the East Point, and that's city-owned property for the most part. That's where the stadiums are, right, for right now. And then that's also where we're going to have a lot of affordable housing. The East Bank Boulevard is going to go through there. And then beyond that, we have an additional area that's nothing on the plate right now to get redeveloped there between James Robertson and Jefferson Street. And when you get north of Jefferson Street, you're no longer in the East Bank. You're now in River North.
Wow. Okay. I don't know what the time was on that, but I think that was less than a minute. Good job.
I try to be efficient.
Excellent. We appreciate that in local government. You and your Metro Council colleagues were instrumental in that name change from East Bend to Wasiotto Bend, as well as several other amendments to the zoning of that development. Council is not typically so involved in individual projects. Why this one?
That's a great question, and I think it really came to light late into the game here. This is East Nashville, right? The east side of the river is East Nashville. However, it was redistricted after the 2020 census into the downtown council members district. And so there's not friction there, but there's the East Nashville crowd isn't necessarily as involved with the East Bank, with the East Bend, rather, Wasiotto Bend, as what they normally would be with a rezoning. And so I think people were brought into the game late in East Nashville. And so they were, their cackles came up very quickly and said, what's happening here? And so then, we got into this place where we have all these amendments that went onto the bill. And, it's made it better for the city. It's made it better for residents of East Nashville. There's still going to be a lot of change. But yeah, Wasiotto Bend, renaming it was one thing because East Bend and East Bank were really confusing.
So confusing.
I know, right? We've banned arenas and, we already have some down there. I think if somebody ever wants to put a baseball stadium or something down there, they can come back to council and ask us to do that. But just being able to do that by right, we've taken that away. We've involved the bike ped folks, the Vision Zero folks, so that they can be involved with the street grid. We're doing an environmental study, limiting the number of hotels and motels. We're limiting and changing how parking can be, eliminating vape shops. And then we're also going to be getting some reports from planning and from NDOT as the result of this to give us information about how the development's going for the streets and for the buildings as well.
So the general idea here was to put more boundaries on this development ahead of time instead of doing them retroactively.
That's right. And kind of breaking it down when we talk about rezoning things, there's a thing called the downtown code. And so within the downtown code, there's subdistricts. When we create these subdistricts is when we say things like your heights need to be this, the road structure needs to be like this. You have to give X amount of park space or green space to what you're doing. For council members from around the county who don't use downtown code, that to me was the best way to break it down to them to help them understand what it was we were actually doing with this bill.
Do you have a favorite amendment that you're most proud of?
Well, my amendment, and it's not a requirement, but one of the things that I think we should be doing as a city When we have these high rises that are built, we need to add city services to take care of those buildings. And I've seen it in many places all over the country, and I'm sure all over the world, but certainly all over the country, where we put a fire hall on the first floor of a high-rise building. So I put an amendment on the bill that says, we encourage developers as this gets developed to, give the city the first floor of a building so that we can build that out. I think the more high rises that we have, people are like, well, how's fire going to cover that? And this is a great way to help get that done.
Your district, District 7, is not immediately adjacent to this development. What did you hear from your constituents about all of this?
The big thing that I think people from around the county, again, don't necessarily understand is that people in Inglewood believe that we are East Nashville, and I believe we are. And we take roads through this area all the time. We take the Shelby Avenue exit. We drive I-24 to Ellington Parkway in particular. I do that almost daily. And so the development that happens here will impact District 7 residents' daily lives. Certainly Inglewood, but also people in Madison within District 7 who go through this area, and frankly, people from all over the county who go through this area. The reason why we want to do things like limit car use and limit parking is because it's already so congested, so that the people who traveled through there aren't having to deal with as much. Well, I don't know that we're going to be able to improve conditions, but I hope that we're not going to worsen conditions.
I do have a personal question. So I've been talking to a lot of my friends about East Bank development.
Oh, no.
And so many do not know this is happening. Do you feel your constituents are in the know, or are you finding people daily that are not aware of this massive development?
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think I really try hard to get the word out through multiple platforms. I have a significant email list that I send notifications out to, and then my Instagram. During the winter storm Fern, I did frequent updates, sometimes twice a day, even 3 times a day, to get the word out and get information out to people. I've done the same thing with this redistricting down on the East Bank, and that is I've done almost daily videos, reels, whatnot on Instagram to let folks know what's happening, to try to break it down the way that you and I just did, so that we can be in the trenches working on it together. And that's the thing about that communication piece is if I don't give you what I know, then I can't hear from you what you know.
Do you think it's possible for Wauseoto Bend and the East Bank to become real neighborhoods and not just an extension of downtown across the river?
Am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
We'll bleep it out. Let it out. We want the real council member.
God damn it. That's exactly what needs to happen. We have spent, and I don't know if in the South you can still say God damn it or not, but this is precisely what all this time has been spent doing. The community spent 20 months on the Imagine East Bank Vision Plan. The city made the promise, made the vision plan come to life that said this will be a neighborhood for Nashvillians. One of the things I want to make sure this is Moreville, less Vegas, right? We were told through the Imagine East Bank Vision Plan, and the city promised our people that this would not become Broadway 2.0. Well, let's make sure that happens. And so the only way that we can make sure that happens is to leverage our control. And one of the biggest levers that we have at council is zoning. If you want to do something with your land, you got to come through us. And we get to say, well, the people said they want this, so that's what you're going to have to give them. And that's the whole purpose of this amendment process.
I love zoning. It's pretty sexy term around here these days.
We need more doggone housing.
I know.
There, I left the expletive out. We need more housing, and, zoning reform will get us there slowly. We make zoning reform, so we pass a bill or we pass a specific plan. We rezone a property. That doesn't mean the shovel's going in the ground right now. That means hopefully someday housing units will get built. But if we don't have the zoning changes, then it never will happen.
Hey, Nashville, y'all hungry? Well, if you are like me and love a great food scene, it might be time for a road trip to Birmingham, Alabama. We're talking Michelin-recognized restaurants, some of the best barbecue in the country, and a dining scene that outlets like Afar, Eater, and Southern Living are all raving about. USA Today even ranked Birmingham's Southbound Food Festival as one of the best in the country. But it's not just about the food, though honestly, that would be enough for me. But Birmingham also has a rich history, tons of outdoor activities, a passionate sports culture, and plenty to do whether you're traveling solo, with friends, or bringing the whole family. You can explore hands-on exhibits at the McWane Science Center, visit the Birmingham Zoo, or just hang out at Railroad Park downtown. And if you're more of an outdoorsy type, there are hiking trails, biking routes, and even great spots to paddle or golf. For inspiration, go ahead and follow @InBirmingham on Instagram and start planning your trip at inbirmingham.com. That's inbirmingham.com. Howdy, neighbors! May's weather is absolutely gorgeous right now, but let's be honest, those hot summer days will be here soon enough. And you know what that means. Your AC is about to be working overtime, and your utility bill is about to prove it. So don't wait until you're sweating through it to fix the problem. Drafty, inefficient windows are one of the biggest reasons your home can't hold on to that cool air. But want to know some good news? The pros at Window Nation can help you upgrade to energy-efficient windows at a really great price. And right now, Window Nation's Buy 4 Windows, Get 4 Free sale is going on now. Yes, you can replace all the windows in your home and get half of them for free. You can even get 0 down and no payments or interest for 2 years, which makes this a pretty smart move heading into the summer. Plus, their team measures everything multiple times and can install your new windows in as little as 1 day, so you're not dealing with a huge disruption. But hurry, sale ends soon. Don't wait to put an end to your window problems. Schedule a fast, free consultation now at windownation.com. Did you vote for the new Titan Stadium?
I did not. I'm not a fan of corporate giveaways. We know that the value of NFL teams increase significantly when they get a new stadium. We've seen it all over the country. And so I tried to put something on the bill for the stadium that said that Nashvillians will get a share of that profit increase. Now, like the equity in your home, the argument back from the Titans was, well, we'd have to tap into that equity in order to give you money back for it. Plus, also, how do we measure that? Well, stadium announcement happens, stadium construction begins, and all of a sudden the Titans' value has increased by, tens of millions of dollars. And guess what Nashvillians got? Nothing.
It was very clear during the stadium vote that state Republicans intended to have a lot of control over the East Bank and that they've got their eyes on the Super Bowl. Why do you think they care so much?
Well, they view things like the Super Bowl as revenue generators for the state and money that, they can, 7% of the 9.75% sales tax that Nashville collects, 7% of it goes straight to the state. So, they view it as an economic benefit to the state for us to have more people come in. There's also a hotel tax. One of the challenges that I see in any time we have like the draft or the Super Bowl is that if you go downtown and ask a bartender, when CMA is here, how much more money do you make? And the answer usually is none, because they're packed to the gills all the time. So from an economic development perspective, where that money is actually going is to typically corporations. It's going to the Marriotts. It's going to the Hiltons. It's going to those companies downtown, those big companies downtown, and they're paying shareholders. They're not investing that money back into our city. They're giving it away to other millionaires on Wall Street rather than to the middle class and the people who need the money in order to live in this city.
Well, we had a bartender on who works at one of the Hiltons, and she did say that the tourists tip quite nicely compared to the locals.
Well, then I'd be glad to be proven wrong on that point.
House Speaker Sexton has taken great personal interest and even sits on the East Bank Authority Board. During this year's session, he filed and passed legislation to give $300 million of surplus convention center money to the East Bank Authority. What is that money going to be used for?
First of all, last term, Mayor Cooper negotiated the same thing out of the excess funds that the convention center gets. And he was able to help pay some of our operating expenses because he was getting that money. I think it was 30 million a year, 20 million a year. I should know that number, but I don't recall. I was much younger then. And what happened after that is the state passed a law and prevented us from getting that money. And now they're using that law to get the money for themselves.
Will Metro Council or the people of Nashville have any say over the money, and can it actually help build a real neighborhood?
I don't know.
$300 million.
I mean, my honest answer is, I don't know. I mean, it's the state's money, right? I mean, it's our money, but it's the state's money. I mean, it was deemed in the deal to be our money to pay our debt, right? There's extra money there, and I don't doubt that the convention center leadership would be glad to use that money to benefit people's lives. I don't think that convention center leadership is interested in sitting on a pile of cash that they can't put to use to further the business that they do. They run a phenomenal business out of that building on Music City Center. And the fact that they have so much in profits, I think, demonstrates the good work that they do. Attracting, I mean, I think that building is almost full all the time, all year long. That's not true of many convention centers, and I think there's a lot of them around the country who are probably jealous of the success that the leadership have had with Music City Center. That also means they're making a lot of extra money, and, what do they want to do with that extra money? Well, typically, if you're a for-profit company, you give it back to the shareholders, right? Or you pay your CEO billions of stock options, et cetera. Not so with a convention center. They want to make sure that money goes back to taxpayers. In this case, the state's going to determine how that will go back to taxpayers. And frankly, I don't like decisions that they've made about the money we give them and how they spend it, buying things like vouchers for rich people. Now, there are pieces of the East Bank that are going to be related to the state. TPAC is one, right? But I think, this really is a way for the state to assert control over the city. And I think Speaker Sexton has been deemed the shadow mayor of Nashville. I don't know that I would go that far personally, but I do think that he has a lot of interest in controlling the economic engine of the state. I mean, we make more money. We are a donor county, and Sevier County is a donor county, and every other county in the state is a welfare county. They all are taking money from the money that comes from people in Davidson County, whether that's visitors or taxpayers.
We also know that state Republicans passed a bill to allow the Tennessee Highway Patrol to police tourism areas like downtown Nashville, which, according to the zoning, now includes the East Bank. Why do you think that was important to them?
Oof. That's a really good question. I think, again, it goes back to the temperature at the state right now, the cooperation with the federal government, the fact that the legislature has even said, we want to pass this bill because it's in the Stephen Miller playbook. We believe it probably is unconstitutional under the U.S. Constitution, but that's okay. I think, THP is, interested in getting more power. I mean, aren't we all interested in getting more power? The problem is, do you want power for good or power for not necessarily good? I think this is one of the things that we need to make sure that if we're going to act as a progressive city, as the most progressive mayor, as the most progressive council body, we can't just talk about it. We have to walk the talk. If we vote in favor of any type of surveillance like license plate readers, then I don't think that we're doing what voters put us there to do. I don't believe that's viewed as a progressive policy. From the pilot itself of the LPR program that happened a few years ago, there was data that showed that, first of all, the cameras themselves were put in targeted areas of the county. Now, MNPD said, well, this is where the crime is. And then when you look at the map, well, maybe the crime's not so high in Bellevue, but I think that they probably have crime out there. Throw up a few cameras, more than just 2 or 3, as compared to on the east side where we had a dozen cameras up or more. There has to be trust with the person who's using the technology. And I think a couple of things about where trust was broken is the pilot program ended and yet the cameras weren't taken down. So did you and did I really believe that the cameras weren't still recording things? The vendor told us that they weren't, but did they take it down? How do we know? I think the other thing about LPRs is we're not necessarily improving policing. Maybe we are. Maybe let's hypothetically say that LPRs are great. We should all vote in favor of them. Well, guess what? They're collecting data. And what are they doing with that data? That data is valuable. And so if we're going to allow license plate readers, which I hope we don't, but if we do allow license plate readers, then we need to have something attached to that that makes sure that we own that data, that this company, whatever company we choose, is not able to hold on to that data and use it for themselves. Quite frankly, they should be paying us to put their cameras up. We should not be approving any money to spend with them. That data is way too valuable.
Well, proponents of mass surveillance and increased security presence say this is what is needed for Nashville to get a Super Bowl and all those other large-scale tourism events, like that they were envisioning for the East Bank. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't care. I mean, they can say what they want. It doesn't make it true. And, there is some level of surveillance that we all have, carrying around a device in our pockets, right?
Yep.
But that's something we choose to do. That's not something that, that's not me taking your tax dollars and doing something with it that you don't want. You elected me as a progressive candidate to the city council on progressive issues. You want me to help use the tax dollars that you pay. You want me to use them for the values that I told you that I have. And so if I spend money on something like this, I'm not being true to that. And I just don't think that that's, I'm misusing your money is how I view it.
The East Bank, Wasiota Bend, and River North are all a very long way from being built. We love to imagine and envision things here in Nashville. So as you imagine how all of this will look in 10 years, do you think the eastern bank of the Cumberland River will be a place that locals are happy to call home?
I sure hope so. I mean, we've put years of work into this. We spent hours of time in the community. And, I spent hours and hours and hours on Instagram to make sure that what we do here is the right thing. And I got phenomenal feedback from people, both, in comments and direct messages on my cell phone, through email, of what people wanted to see and what they want to see as the neighborhood you just described. And if we don't deliver on that promise, we've done a big disservice to this community, to the entire city. We've said it's going to be a walkable neighborhood. That means we don't make places for cars. That means we provide green space. That means we provide the amenities that go with walkable neighborhoods. We have to incentivize those uses, not through money. We have to create the opportunity through zoning and through uses for those private entities that end up building out a store or a little office or whatever it might be. We have to give that zoning and that use to them so that they can end up creating that amenity for Nashvillians.
I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to take this incredible area of our city from scratch to build what we want it to be. So thank you for being here. Thank you for breaking it down for us. We really appreciate it. Can you just remind listeners what your Instagram is? Because I do think if people haven't followed you, they should definitely check you out.
I'm never going to post again. I'm just kidding. I'll actually post this interview there. It's at Emily47. That's EMILYFOR and then the number 7.
Excellent. And folks, we'll put that also in our show notes. So go ahead and click that and follow along. Thank you, Emily, for joining us. We'll have an update on this for the next 10 to 20 years.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been a pleasure and getting to know you, Marie, and I appreciate all that you guys do here at CityCast. You're a big, important value to our city and really to our region. And also nationally, people need to know what's happening here. And, the value of podcasts is that people can find you, all over the world. So you're also kind of like our convention visitors corporation. You're like the We Are Nashville, right? You're helping carry that message to everybody through all the different ways that you cover our city.
Well, thank you. I wish CityCast would donate $300 million to the East Bank development.
For real. Think about what we could do with that. We'd put your name everywhere.
That's right.
Unlike the
CityCast Stadium. Yeah.
Well, we'd have to figure that one out. The TPAC building, CityCast.
Yeah. Love that.
Performing Arts Center.
Ooh, a live broadcasting from TPAC. All right. Well, we can dream big.
There it is.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marie.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, Election Day is tomorrow, May 5th, for Davidson County primary elections. Go vote! Want to support this show and get great perks? Become a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!